Hi, I'm Philip Kiley, and I'm a technical writer at Baseten. Today, I'm going to walk you through a workflow where I'm going to deploy and edit a model. So I'm going to be revising my deployed model until it meets the input and output specifications that I'm looking for. Now, this can take a really long time because every time I deploy the model, every time I want to make a change, I have to redeploy the model and wait for everything to rebuild. And this is just like a super slow and frustrating dev loop. However, today I'm going to be showing you a new feature on Baseten called draft models, which is going to give us a live reload experience. So what's going to happen is I'm going to be able to deploy a model as a draft and then in real time make updates to it, ship them up to a production-like environment, and then invoke my newly changed model without waiting, 5 or 10 minutes for everything to rebuild every time. And that's going to help you out too, because that way this video is not an hour long. To get started, we're going to need a model, and I'm using the awesome Palmer Penguins dataset, which is a nice simple dataset that you can use with sklearn or anything else to make classifier models. So I am going to bring in the model training code, which is adapted from the Palmer Penguins documentation, and just give that a little run here. So what this code is doing, it's importing a bunch of stuff we need, splitting up the data, and then making a classifier with sklearn. And so this classifier, this CLF variable here, is going to be the model we're working with. So once we have a model, we're going to need to package it as a truss. And Truss is a library made by Baseten. It's an open source way of packaging and deploying your models. So we're going to bring that in here with import truss, and then write truss.mic truss CLF, our classifier model, and then let's give it a name. This is the folder that it's going to be stored in. So let's call it Penguin Classifier. And remove that typo, run that block, and it's going to create this truss. So in Google Colab, we have this little files situation, and we can open this up and see like, hey, here we go. We have the folder. It's got the model with this is the sklearn binary. This is the code that controls the model. And so we can take this entire packaged model and we can actually deploy it on Baseten right away. That's not going to be a huge lift. So in another code block, let's import Baseten. And all of this stuff we're doing, by the way, is really just what we're doing to get started. The cool workflow happens once it's all deployed. So I am going to bring in my API key here. And just in case you have any ideas about using it for yourself, don't worry, I've already revoked it by the time you're watching this video. And so baseten.login is going to log me into my Baseten account. And then I'm going to pull that packaged model. Model was truss.from penguin classifier. All right, so with that model in, I'm going to deploy stuff. So baseten.deploy, that's the magical command. Let's give it the packaged model. Let's give it a model name that we're going to be able to recognize in our user interface. Let's call it Penguin Predictor. And then let's give it the all-important argument is draft equal true. And this line right here is everything we care about today. This is what's going to give us this live reload experience. So let's go ahead and run that. And it's going to be deploying our model. And while this model deploys, so this is really useful It's not 100% magic because you do have to wait for the first deploy to run fully. While it deploys, I'm going to bring in the code for invoking the model, which we're going to start by looking for the deployed model ID, and that's going to be this guy right here. And that unique identifier lets us know where to look for the model. And then we're going to specify a model input. And the Palmer Penguins dataset takes a list of lists, which has some currently arcane numbers in it, which we will address in a moment. And then we can find our model, Baseten.deployed model version ID. And then we're going to predict. We're going to invoke the model on the input. Of course, we can't run this code yet. Well, actually, we can. It's just not going to work. It's going to give us this error being like, "Hey, we're still setting this up. Give us a second." So through the power of video editing, in the next few seconds in your time, all of this is going to magically work. Our model is deployed. So now if we run this invocation code again, we should actually receive a prediction. And this is great. You know, our model is working. It's making predictions. We know what kind of penguin we have. But the issue is that just because everything is, working doesn't mean it's working the way we want it to. Deploying a machine learning model is great, but we actually need to deploy it in such a way that it's going to work with the rest of our systems. And as you might or might not know, I am not actually a technical writer at Baseten. I'm a extremely successful penguin researcher, working on various mission-critical penguin research applications. So it's very important to me that I get this configuration correct. So what I want to be able to do is invoke my model with a different with a different model input here. So here's the model input I want to be sending. I want it to be a dictionary still, but I want to take what were just those numbers and actually make them meaningful. So I want to specify bill length. That's going to be 40. I want to specify bill depth. That's going to be 20. I want to specify flipper length. You always got to measure those flippers, which the penguins don't like, but you just got to do it. And then we're also going to consider body mass, because that's a very important factor in determining what kind of penguin we have. Oh, yeah, I just don't know Python syntax. Bear with me for 1 second. Hey, there we go. This is a dictionary, not arguments for a function. All right, so we got our model input, right? And I want to be able to invoke the model like this. So I'm going to try to do that. Oh man, another error. All right, yeah, key error inputs. Okay, it doesn't like this input. It doesn't know what to do with it. But I can fix that. So this is where my live reload workflow is really going to come in handy, because what I'm about to show you, I could do and then ship into production again, but then I'd have to sit around and we'd have to make another cut in this video to wait for the model to deploy again. But instead, we can do everything live. So I'm going to open up model.py, which is in this in the truss that we made earlier. It's the entire packaging of our model. And I'm going to look through it until I find this function stub called preprocess. And preprocessing is basically something that we can do before the model gets invoked to take whatever input we're sending to the API and format it in a way that's friendly to the model. So I have this function, and I'm going to go ahead and implement it. And I'm going to say that this request object we're going to return is going to have the same format as the HTTP request that we used to be sending. So it's going to have that inputs key that we used to have, and it's going to have that double dictionary or double array situation. And inside of that array is just going to be just bill length. It's just going to be all of these parameters that we're specifying in a more user-friendly way in our application. So let me just implement that really quick. And this time I even remembered my proper Python syntax, right? Nope, did not. There we go. Lots of typos today. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up here, and I'm just going to go ahead and run the same code. So I'm just going to deploy it as a draft again. And what you can see here is it's going to patch the draft model. And that means that I can just go right down here, rerun my model right away, and instead of an error, I get my predictions on this new model input. Fantastic. That just saved me so much time. And now that I know that I can mess with my model and just like get these results back right away, I actually want to develop it a little more. You see, this dictionary thing is great, but Penguin researchers are super busy, so we don't necessarily have time to be like looking at all this JSON output and figuring out what it means. So I'm going to return a single sentence instead that's going to more clearly explain the model's output. So in order to do that, I'm going to implement a post-processing function here. And instead of returning the request directly, let me pull that over so you can see what I'm doing. Instead of returning this request dictionary, I'm going to return a string. And in that string, I'm going to be like, it looks like you found yourself a. And then I'm going to parse that request dictionary really quick. Request predictions 0. That's going to bring in this prediction right here. And finish writing that function. Save that up. And then it's going to be exactly the same thing, right? So I'm going to go up here, patch my model again, come down here, invoke my model again, and boom, right away, I've got my newly formatted output. So I can keep, implementing things in this file. I can make whatever changes I need to in order to make this model that I trained work with whatever system I want to plug it into. And every time I want to test something, I just patch my model, invoke my model, and see if it works. And if I get an error, it's no big deal. I just change my model.py file again and fix it up just like I did earlier. So once I've been through this workflow, all I need to do in order to send my model into a full production state, because this draft model, while super useful, I wouldn't want to run in production because it's not going to have access to the same amount of compute resources and the same uptime. So in order to get it to be a proper model, all I have to do is delete isDraft equal true, run it again. Oops. Didn't mean to pause it there. And yeah, so it's going to now deploy a full version of the model. And in a few minutes, I'll have that all ready for me, and it's going to work exactly the same as whatever the last version of the draft model I deployed was. So yeah, that's how you use draft models to get a live reload workflow and iterate quickly on your model serving code so that you can take your trained model and better integrate it with the rest of your systems. Thank you so much for watching, and keep an eye out for penguins.